Welcome to Straight Talk. To merge or not to merge, that's on the minds of meat companies, with Silver Fern Farms quizzing its shareholders and those of rival Alliance about whether getting together is a good idea. Could this be the rebirth that sheep and beef farmers have sought for so long? At the same time, the primary growth partnership initiative that Silver Fern Farms is involved in with Landcorp and PGG Wrightson is getting the thumbs up from farmers and meat companies. Will this guarantee the vertical integration of the troubled industry? Wool prices are climbing and our Agriculture Minister is pressing the flesh with royalty to push the cause. Today I'm joined by former Federated Farmers President Brian Chamberlin and freelance journalist Keith Stewart. Well, Brian, is this what farmers have been waiting for such a long time with the meat industry?
You know, I think it could be. I think Ian Garden is a very respected leader in the farming industry. He's taking a very measured approach to this, and I think the timing is probably right to not only talk with his own farmers, but with the farmers in the other cooperative as well. So I think there is a good chance of progress being made.
Good. Keith, do you think it's a case of too little, too late, perhaps?
Too stupid, too soon, quite frankly.
Why do you say that?
Well, because once again, the quest is for economies of scale. It's not actually about making a product that we can sell for a maximum return. It's about reducing the base cost and flogging a synthesised product to the rest of the world. That's what it's about.
But surely
I think it's about both.
Yeah.
I can't see how it is.
Surely with meat companies getting together, the best of their practices would be spread across all the different entities, wouldn't it?
Here's an example of the problem. I was at a promotion recently where a large meat company's meat was being grandstanded at a very smart restaurant. I know that the chef at that restaurant refused to serve that meat. We got somebody else's meat. Everybody raved how good it was because the chef could not rely on the quality of the meat that was being delivered. There's a lot of talk. There's no performance still in the meat industry, and that is fundamentally the problem.
This is a problem that's dogged the industry for years, hasn't it, Brian? But there has been pretty considerable improvement.
Well, if you take what was PPCS and is now Silver Fern Farms, PPCS were the commodity traders, no doubt about that, and they've made considerable steps in the last year or two to try and get out of commodity and to have a better product. For instance, they shut down their frozen cutting plant in the UK.
That's right, it wasn't that long ago.
The other great thing that happened, and it's a long time ago now, the Uruguay round settlement, but it gave us unlimited access to Europe, or almost unlimited access for a chilled product. And to quite an extent, the companies have actually picked that up. One of the reasons why I think they do need together, and this does get back to your processing side of it, is that there does need to be rationalisation. I mean, the industry's much smaller than it used to be. It does have to rationalise. And if you just get one company rationalising on its own, it doesn't often get the result. We've had one reasonably successful rationalisation, and that goes back to when Weddell was taken out of the New Zealand industry, and all the companies got together, or most of the companies got together, and that was a useful rationalisation. Now, if they try and do it on their own, I think the costs will be greater than if they do it together.
Right. How much more rationalisation is required? Because this seems to be the call from meat companies all the time, rather than, as Keith says, concentrating on the end product.
Well, Keith's certainly right that we've got to get the end product right. I've had a lot of talks with Tim Grocer, for instance, and he said that absolutely puzzles him. If you want to eat the best, have the best meal in the world, and I agree with him on this, it's actually a well-done rack of lamb, well, not well done, but a nicely presented, well-cooked rack of lamb. It's probably the best upmarket meal you can get. And at this point, for some reason, the farmers still haven't been paid enough to
produce that.
But that's because the process is industrialised all the way through. Farmers were told by meat companies it was all about weight and reduction of fat. It was never about the food at the end of the chain. And the problem that we still have is I still talk to chefs who, the people that are representing the meat companies to the chefs I think the term that was used the other day to me is a bunch of drongos.
Oh.
They have no idea what the chefs want, and they don't care if the products, once they get the sale, they don't care what happens in 3 weeks' time. And then they're coming and saying, you don't stock our product anymore. Why? It's crap. The stuff that you sold me first isn't maintained. There is no culture of excellence in the meat industry in terms of relating to foodies, relating to high-quality chefs and their customers. And until we do that, the rest of the world, which is a very big world, and all want that lamb you've just been talking about, just laugh at us. I mean, I can remember being at a meat industry event here in Auckland when the leading Italian food writer was out here, and the crowd were throwing bread rolls at her because she did.
I remember that very well. Yes.
Has that changed? You don't actually win friends by chucking bread rolls at them.
Well, she was very critical about the New Zealand meat industry, and to be fair to the industry figures who were at that function, they took it really badly. They were proud of their industry and they wanted to tell her so. Maybe they got the message across in the wrong way.
You don't invite somebody out to New Zealand and chuck bread rolls at them.
No, you do not. Keith, maybe from what you're saying, there needs to be more people employed by the meat companies in the marketing sort of side of things who have a better knowledge of what chefs do require, both here and overseas. Is that a way forward?
Absolutely. I mean, the interesting thing for me is I've been talking so much to farmers recently who are doing the job themselves. They're bypassing the meat industry. They're getting their meat killed the way they want it, and they're taking it straight to chefs. And chefs are paying higher prices for it, and they're getting returns.
Yeah, but chefs aren't the only people that prepare lamb.
No.
I'm sure that the majority of the lamb is still prepared and cooked in houses, homes, and by men and women, which is somewhat of a change.
Absolutely.
And you know, I don't think it's just the restaurant trade that we should be concentrating on.
Not everybody who buys a sports shirt is an All Black, but if the All Blacks wear them, everybody buys them.
Yeah. Now, Brian, just getting back to this initiative from Silver Fern Farms, Craig Norgate, he tried to do a similar thing going back a year or so ago. What makes it different this time round?
I think this one major problem is whether we want to get them together or not, there's one major problem is that one company is probably sounder than the other as far as equity is concerned, and
that's a problem.
that's been the problem right through, I think. And I think under Ian Garden and the Alliance leadership, they might be able to get through that one.
Just moving on to the Primary Growth Partnership initiative that's been out there. It's had a look over by farmers. They seem to be pretty keen on the idea. It's been talked about a $35 a lamb increase. Is that going to make farmers prouder of the product they're producing, better rewarded for it, as you were talking about before?
Not necessarily. I think, once again, it's about culture. It's about being proud of what they do, not necessarily the return they get. I think the return follows the pride. And I think what we need to do much more in New Zealand is become a nation of food people, that we're proud of our food, not of our production capabilities. So that, I mean, I remember going to a meeting of Federated Farmers in Ashburton a number of years ago, and the food that was served after this meeting, it was some sort of a function, was absolute garbage. And I could not believe how farmers would allow their raw materials to be turned into muck.
Well, I always remember years ago, Brian, the complaints there used to be at the meat and wool section meetings when fish was served up, or
chicken for lunch.
Yeah, they hated that. Thanks, gentlemen. After the break, we talk dairy, including Fonterra's foray into Chinese dairy farms, and we check out whether New Zealand's biosecurity rules need to be tightened with the Rugby World Cup just around the corner. Stay with us. Welcome back to Straight Talk. Now it's on to You Said It, hot topics making the rounds in the ag media. Now, Brian, there's been a lot happening in the wool industry of recent times. Prices going up, David Carter over talking to the Prince of Wales about his campaign for wool. These are all good moves, are they not, for the industry? It's been under siege for some time.
Well, hopefully, I think we're finally differentiating the different products that come out of the wool industry. And if you look at the merino industry in recent years, they've done a pretty good job of targeting it right into the consumers. And I think you'd agree with
absolutely.
that, Keith. But we haven't done the same with our carpet wools, our second shear, stronger wools. We just haven't made the same progress. We've tried to compete against the synthetics, and we haven't really been able to do that. We've now got down to a stage where production is lower than it used to be, and I think there is an opportunity now to be able to capitalise on the people who want to use a sustainable product. And I think that wool, you know, you can argue that you've still got to use fertiliser and things like that to grow it, and it mightn't be as sustainable as some people think, but it does just keep on growing year after year, and I think that's what some of the consumers will be looking for. And I think there's also the opportunity to target it in for insulation and things like that.
Yes,
so,
that's a big
you know,
area.
I think that we are looking at it from the market end now rather than from the production end. And, you know...
What about the fact that wool growers are being asked to put their hands in their pockets in terms of the funding for the new organisation, the Wool Partners Cooperative? Do you think they're going to get the head of steam up they want?
It's going to be really interesting. I was a director of a wool cooperative for a number of years, and we were really only taking the product one further stage. We were scouring it and then exporting it post-scouring rather than pre-scouring, but we were vulnerable to exchange rate changes. And I think that, you know, I think they're looking for 50 million capital, is that right? And I think that's the sort of money that they will need to give them a sound base to be able to, first of all, develop the markets that they're looking for and get right into the consumers. But also, we are still going to have some problems with exchange rates, so they do need a good, strong equity. And whether the farmers are in a position to come up with 50 million at the moment or not
that might be the
is a
stumbling
really
block.
big question.